Every morning starts with just a bit of coffee. Here it is, day in the life of a mill worker, summer edition. Today on the agenda is making 4x6s, 10'4" long. Yesterday I made a whole pile of them. As a result, I made quite a mess. All the slabs and waste wood and side lumber. I think what I'm gonna do is deal with this mess that I made. Hopefully it will just start right up on me. This thing can be kind of finicky. Just gonna let the chipper warm up a little bit. Let's see if that did the trick. And while I was chipping, Gordon showed up. Now we're going to deal with all our slabs. Okay, we've got a fresh log on the mill here, and I'm going to show you some of the decisions I've got to make. So I want to make beams that are 4x6. This log is almost exactly 12 inches, which is not good for me. Because if it's perfectly 12, I can make 6 and a 6, but because this face here at the top would need to be 4 inches across, and down there it would have to be 4 inches across, I can't actually make it. If I was to cut up there at the 1 foot mark, I would not have a 4-inch face going across. And this is the wider end of the log. My other side of the log is going to be narrower. Probably 11 inches, I'm guessing. It's pretty close, 11 and a half. 11 and a half. So when this end of the log is narrower, that means I'm going to bring this up half the distance of with the difference between the two ends. So if my other one was a foot and it's a half inch, I would bring this up a quarter of an inch. What I'm actually going to do on this log here is I'm going to try and take 4x6, 4x6, 4x6. Let's see how it works out. And I think it should work out fairly well because this looks kind of egg-shaped. Okay, I've made a couple cuts here, but now I have changed my mind as to what I'm going to do. I was going to make a 4x6 like this, but to be able to get a 6-inch face at the top of the other side, I had to cut it quite deep. And I want to get a 4x6 and a 4x6 here, but this is 6 inches right to the bottom. I don't think it's going to make it. I don't think I'm going to have much of a face. One thing that happens too is sometimes you measure from the top and it looks like you've got enough, but then you got to remember that every cut takes out 1/8 of an inch. So I take it out 1/8 of an inch, and next thing you know, you don't have enough log. So I decided to flip this log upside down, but I still really want to get 3 out of here. We'll see what happens.
Good morning and welcome to the MVS Wood Products 4x6 Invitational. First up at the sawmill is Mike. Man, this is a classic example of man versus, well, a log.
I think to me, it seems like a classic case of Mike versus Mike.
He's been asking a lot of himself, and actually most of the time he comes out on top. Statistically, it's been pretty good for him.
Mike has quite the advantage as he's standing at 6'4", and that log is only 12 inches.
Reach is going to be a big factor in this because the controls continually move away from him, and that's going to be a problem.
2,600 RPM on the mill, that's his go-to rate. 1-inch tooth spacing, he rocks a 7, maybe 7.5 pitch on his blades. And fun factoid about Mike, he only drinks out of enamel mugs.
Mike also eats a bowl of ice cream a day, every single day, never takes a day off. Contrary to popular belief, he can grow a beard, just nobody can see it. 8 days into this sawing 4x6s, so he's probably hitting his stride.
Or we might see a massive showing of complacency.
Stay tuned to find out.
With tricky logs like this one, it almost always comes down to cut sequence.
Oh, and he's splitting the difference, and he's getting 2 out of that single beam. Those are coming off.
With Gordon officiating, it looks like Mike has pulled out 2 out of his 3 4x6s.
Well, 2 is not going to cut it. Where is this third beam going to come? Oh, and he's pulled out a slab he cut off earlier. He's going to get the final 4x6 out of the slab. This is really a shock. But he can't see the wane, he's cutting blind.
It just seems to me that he's taking a huge risk cutting with the wane away from him. He has no idea what's on the other side of that log.
This is gonna be close. The blade is coming down to the end of the log. He's running out of clear wood. The wane is getting closer and closer to the blade.
I think the official has gone and started sorting other bits of wood, so at this point we can say that the third one's basically money in the bank.
And it looks like he's got that third beam.
You know, I'm impressed. I'm impressed that Mike pulled it off. There was barely 3 in that log.
He set a high bar and he achieved it, and I think he should be proud of himself, and we should all be proud of ourselves.
This is probably one of the best times of the day, probably about 8 o'clock or something. The sun is just peeking over. It's already hitting our firewood pile over there. It's just beautiful. And I've already made a huge pile of edgings and slabs that need to be chipped again. Oh, that sun is nice. When a blade's doing that, it usually means it's about to break at any moment. What I'm looking for is on the leading edge, right in this gully, which we call the gullet. That's where cracks usually form, and that's the most likely cause. Sometimes they're pretty hard to see. Like something like that almost looks like a crack, but it's just a scratch. I think the most likely cause is this weld here. The weld there is a bit funny. Not terribly sharp. I've decided that that sketchy blade is now too dull to keep milling with. So we're going to do a quick blade change. Just like that, we have a new blade. I'm gonna straighten this beam out. You can see how much it's twisted. It's turned in on this side, but on the opposite side, it's the other way. It's turned that way. So the whole beam is twisted down its length, which doesn't make it very usable. And that's a common thing that happens with a beam that's got the heart in it. You can see the heart of the tree is in there. It'll have a tendency to twist like that. So we're gonna take it down right about here and just straighten it out. It'll be a much smaller beam when I'm done, but at least it'll be straight, and it should stay straight. Well, not sure if you can see it, but we've got some beam coming off of our sawdust pile. Letting us know that it's warm. So what we have here is some pretty heavy pieces of wood. Probably north of 100 pounds. You might think it might be fun to get a sawmill, throw the blade through and watch sawdust fly around, but you have to deal with these heavy pieces of wood. My legs feel like they're beaten with a pillowcase full of doorknobs. Lifting these up is a level of suffering that makes the end of Braveheart look like a high-priced spa. Lunchtime. We finished an epic chipper session. Our chip pile is completely out of control. Down to the house. Not a bad commute. Takes me all of 3 minutes to get back to the house. You can hear the creek going. Beautiful day. Well, we're back from lunch. Another nice long twisted beam to straighten out, but it is starting to get hot, so it is time for some sunscreen. I've watched some videos of big sawmills where the miller is sitting in a booth that's heated and air conditioned. But until we have something like that, sunscreen is the way to go. And this is the sound of work starting. This electric motor here, which is actually running off of our hydroelectric plant, which runs off of the creek, is turning over this hydraulic pump. And the hydraulic pump is what operates all my controls for the mill. Well, let's get started. end of the day. It's the last vlog. It's a good one. It is hot out now. David is out there driving the big loader, probably pulling some trees out or something. It's quite a machine. It's pretty hard to miss, even over the roar of the sawmill where that big loader is running. You can feel it in the ground. And you can tell it's summer. Not only is it cooking hot, but all the clouds that rise up from behind the mountain over there start to look like forest fires of some kind, like a tower of smoke coming up from behind the mountain. We don't have air conditioning here, but we've got the next best thing. Woo! Straight off the mountain. About as cold as it gets. Well, I hope you enjoyed this summer day on the sawmill. It's time for me to head home.